What's going on, nerds? Welcome back to Comic Book Nerd Nation, episode number 60. I'm Fox2. We got the whole crew here today. Pirate.
Hey.
Topher.
Pirate likes boys.
And the whole effing Brian.
Jazz hands.
Wow, we started off on a really awkward note today. This should be
Hey, girl, hey.
This should be special. All right, let's just get it out of the way. Let's start with what Topher's been reading.
Reader's Digest.
Yeah, I don't like the sound of that. Let's get it out of the way. Like let's get it over with, so people know that they can just skip to 15 minutes in and see the stuff you really wanted to get to.
So he
going
is
on.
conscious about the fact that his section lasts significantly longer than everyone else's.
We want to know what's going on with the X-Men.
You know, it's not my fault if you guys don't read anything and can't find anything interesting to say. And
I read a lot this week.
You know, I actually haven't read a whole lot. Damn it, I did read some X-Men. Not a whole lot to talk about there, though. Bendis' series have been good. The all-female team book has not been great. I've been kind of boring. And I finished Jason Aaron's Wolverine the X-Men run. I might have mentioned this last time. I don't even remember. And then there's another one by Jason Latour writing it, and I've not been nearly as big a fan of that one. Like, it's just the second Wolverine in the X-Men series. It's just meh. It's not that great. He doesn't seem to be able to find a voice for the characters that I like. Like, Quentin Quire has become one of my favorite characters from the other book, and now in this one he's like, I don't know, he just sounds like an idiot. I don't like it. So there, I talked about some X-Men, but I bitched about some of it. So.
Nice.
Does that make anything different?
Yeah.
Let's see here. Also, I did read a new comic this week. Like, I read a comic that actually came out this week. How often does that happen?
Damn.
The number
Pretty
one.
much never.
Who put a gun to your head?
It was a blaster, not a gun. I read the new Star Wars #1.
That was a good book.
Horrible.
It was really good. Cassidy's art is great, and again, Jason Aaron writing, who I just said I loved his Wolverine in the X-Men series, and his Thor: God of Thunder was freaking awesome. So yeah, I really liked it. It starts out like it's a pretty decent story. Time frame is, I guess, between episode 4 and 5. The Death Star has been blown up the first time, but Vader's still around, and Luke's not like a complete full badass Jedi yet, and it was pretty good. All the main characters were in it. Luke, Han, Leia, Chewie, the droids, Vader, and so far it started out pretty awesome. The art's great, and all the characters. I mean, it really felt like like dialogue that would have been from one of the original trilogy movies. So I was really happy with it. I gotta admit, I kind of nerded out, and when I went to read it, I put my headphones on and I fired up the Star Wars soundtrack, and it was. Dude, you would not believe how well it played along, though. Because it actually, the book starts out with
the blank page and then Star Wars,
and then you got the giant Star Wars splash, and then you've got the you've got the little cinematic crawl and everything, and it starts with a ship coming in over a planet in space. I mean, it was perfect. Like, they set it up really well, and it, the music that I was listening to almost followed it perfectly. Like, Leia comes onto the panel, and, they start playing Leia's theme, and then it switches scenes to an Imperial thing, and the Imperial March starts playing. I'm like, oh my god, this was perfect.
When Vader comes out of the ship at the end. Vader's music definitely playing in my head when I read that part.
Oh god, it was great. My favorite part was Vader's got this little group of stormtroopers, and someone takes a shot at him, and he senses it coming, and instead of blocking it, he just uses the Force, picks up 2 stormtroopers and throws them to his side and smashes them together to make a human shield to take all the fire from him. I was like, that's badass.
Well, I mean, they are expendable, you know.
Right, but
Throughout the whole movie, they're the nameless henchmen of Bond movies.
They're the red shirts from Star Trek, just as expendable as them.
So I'm pretty excited about this book, and I'm definitely going to keep picking it up because the first one was very solid and really felt like Star Wars. So I'm happy about that.
You should keep us.
That's pretty much.
You should keep us up to date on that, man, for sure. I think all of us here are Star Wars fans.
Definitely.
I think I'm gonna pick those up because I mean I was kind of like hesitant when Marvel was ending up gonna be when Dark Horse didn't buy the rights to the contract stuff or whatever the deal was that they had with Marvel that they gave them, like you can pay us to keep running them or you can buy like certain storylines or I can't remember what it was because I like the Dark Horse comics of Star Wars.
The Dark Horse comics were really good, but I don't know that Marvel gave them much of a choice because now that Disney owns Star Wars and Marvel,
right.
I think they were like, we want them all.
Yeah.
I heard somebody say something about like there were certain runs that they did or they could have done or they could have kept or they could have bought out like 2 more years worth of doing it. Or you know what I mean, like increase their
probably
run
just
still.
like a contract extension or something. I'm sure that there was probably some kind of option, but it was probably made astronomically expensive.
It was something.
I'm sure it was a pricey option.
Like
it's where it wasn't really financially feasible.
Right. But regardless, I was kind of upset and I was kind of worried about how Marvel was gonna deal with it.
One cool thing about this series and the fact that Marvel's doing them now that they're under being made under the Disney umbrella and George Lucas doesn't have complete creative control over it now, they have said that everything that they make now, like the cartoons, like the new Star Wars Rebels cartoon and this comic is all officially canon now. So like what happens in this book, doesn't just stay in this book, it really is part of the cinematic universe. Like they used to have the expanded universe, like people would write books and whatnot, and a lot of those were really good, but as soon as the next movie would come out, it could completely undo everything that was in a book, because it was only true until somebody wrote otherwise. But they've said that what happens in the book is actually part of the new Star Wars franchise, and they may even incorporate some of it like into the movies that are coming up, and so like everything that's in here is actually like a legitimate story. It's not like a kind of like a
just like I don't know
like a fan fiction or like alternate material that may or may not be may not have actually been canon. Like it's supposed to be legit. Like this is part of the new movie universe.
That's awesome. I guess I'll go next. I actually read a lot of comics this week. Batman Eternal. Been catching up on that. I think I'm about 100% caught up now. I think maybe I might have the most recent issue yet to read. But again, absolutely loving the story. It's awesome. Every week you read that book, and it just keeps getting better and better. They incorporate so many characters, so many aspects of the storyline. It's great. You've heard me say it 1,000 times, so I'm not going to dwell. On a side note, I tried to read Gotham at Midnight. I think is that what it's called, Brian? Gotham?
I think so.
Gotham at
the
Midnight.
one with Jim Corrigan.
Yeah.
Gotham at Midnight.
The artwork is so terrible that I put the book down and decided to no longer read it. It is horrible. It's absolutely terrible to the point where it's distracting. It's so the drawings are so nondescript and undetailed, and it's just glorified stick figures basically. I mean, it's really not impressive artwork in my personal opinion. So I will not be reading that unless they change the art crew. I finished the Green Lantern Universe Godhead story arc, which, okay, I want to talk about this for a second. I loved everything in the story. It was all leading up. Everything was snowballing together. It was culminating into this seemingly massive event that was going to have some kind of really awesome climax that would have lasting, potential lasting effects on the Green Lantern universe. And the way that it actually ended was like the writer showed up and his boss walked into his office and was like, you need to finish that story like now. Like 5 minutes now. And then that was it. I mean, it was just slow build up, slow build up, slow build up, and then all of a sudden in the Green Lantern annual, they just tied up the whole fucking thing in like 30 pages and it was over. So they took like 20 some books to build this whole thing up, and then within 30 pages they just wrote it all away, basically, and it ended in Highfather basically being like, I'm sorry, are we good now? Yeah, we're good now. And then that's it. That was Brian, chime in. You read it as well.
Yeah, I didn't like it that much. I thought it was all right, but I don't know. Ever since Jeff Johns left Green Lantern, it's just been not that entertaining to me. I mean, there was a couple of cool parts that I liked. I liked the only issues I really liked in the series were any of the Sinestro issues.
That, and I liked the bit how Hal Jordan got Blackhand to raise the
Source Wall,
the people in the Source Wall.
Yeah,
which was cool. But again, he did it, and then like the very next episode, they were just like, "Oh my gosh, they're so powerful, and they're tearing down the city." And then they just don't say anything about them. They just go away.
They come back to life, and then they crashed the what's the name? New Genesis.
They didn't have to like fight them to the death. They didn't have to like put them back in the Source Wall. They didn't like mention any of that shit.
Then
it was just like
Blackhand got sucked into the Source Wall,
and it was just so much that I felt was left just unaddressed or just completely glossed over. That the first 75-80% of the material in that storyline was great. The last 20-25% of it was terrible. Period.
Yeah, and then you learn in World's End that later on in the future, Darkseid and Highfather come to like a truce.
Did we know before this book that Highfather and Darkseid were brothers?
If you knew about it in the pre-New 52,
okay.
You knew they were brothers.
All right, I did not know that.
Yeah.
All right. So I read that. Then I read I think one or two of the follow-up Green Lantern issues, where it was a pretty funny issue actually. It was Guy Gardner and Hal Jordan and Barry Allen at a bar playing pool, and they get into a fist fight with some other drunk guys, and it was pretty. The whole point of it was for Hal Jordan to be able to try and reconcile things with Star Sapphire. So
because she's seeing Kyle Rayner now.
Right, because she's with Carl.
That's another weird thing. They were always together.
Exactly.
And now they're splitting.
I don't know how I feel about that, but the way they left that book, they basically left it as though there's a possibility that those two are going to be back together, which is basically inevitable. I also read a few issues of the New Teen Titans. It was all right. It wasn't. I don't know if I'm going to continue reading it or not. I just kind of wanted to check it out and see what it was like. I can't even remember the issue numbers, like 4 and 5 or 3 and 4 or something like that. I know the series isn't very far into the series. That's why I thought I would go ahead and give it a try now and see what I think about it. It was pretty interesting.
That series caught some flack early on for
the way that they wrote Power Girl with big huge boobs. Yeah,
Wonder Girl
was Starfire.
No, it was I think it was Power Girl. I could be
no,
wrong.
Isn't it Wonder Girl?
Wonder Girl. No, I don't remember.
I could have sworn it was Starfire.
It's like the 17-year-old blonde chick.
That's right. Yeah, no, because Starfire's older now in this one. Never mind. Yeah. Have they did they Have they toned that down
No.
at all? Or
No.
no. Okay.
Breast reduction, you mean?
No, not at all. Not even
Her
a
back
little
was
bit.
in jeopardy of being her back was in jeopardy of pain as growing up, so they had to.
Future lower back problems?
Future
Suck a few
lower
boobs
back-
out.
yeah. So no, they did not adjust the breast size there. Also read a few issues of Supergirl. I really like the storyline that they're going into now. She's going to a school, an off-planet school called the Crucible, that takes the most powerful of
The super teens.
like different races from around the multiverse, and trains them to like use their powers and to try and be able to like create a peaceful existence or whatever. So it's a pretty interesting storyline that's going on there. But I think one of my favorite things that I read was Jeff Johns' Justice League. I don't know if you guys have been reading that at all. They started the Amazo virus storyline, and it's essentially a virus that Lex Luthor created in an effort to be able to help contain super criminals, like super villains, that would temporarily strip them of their superpowers. But there were like unaccounted for side effects, one of which was apparently that if you give this, if a non-superhuman gets the virus, they gain they have like 24 hours of flu-like symptoms, then they have 24 hours of 24 or 48 hours of a random superpower, and then they die. And so what makes it really interesting is that those members of the Justice League that are not alien are affected by it. So like the Flash is down and out. He doesn't have his superpowers and is slated for death within a day or two. I can't remember who else. I think Cyborg. I think
Well, I think all of them were knocked out except for Superman.
and Batman.
Batman
Didn't have it yet, but then at the end of the last issue that I read, Batman caught the Amazo virus, which means in the next issue, Batman's going to have a superpower of some kind, which is a really interesting concept because this isn't something that I don't think we've really seen this before. Batman's personality, and when you add, it could be anything. It could be super strength, it could be super speed, it could be flight, it could be teleportation, it could be anything. But so I'm definitely digging that storyline. But I mean, again, Jeff Johns wrote it. Pretty much anything that man writes is insanely good, so it doesn't necessarily surprise me. So I've taken
Batman's new superpower is the ability to smile.
Look at
That
my
would be
pearly
like-
whites and fear me.
That would be like the one way that you could make that storyline not interesting. Like,
Fear me.
all right,
I
Pirate,
don't know.
what have you been reading?
I didn't read anything.
Didn't read shit. That's
What
fine.
about your boat
I
books?
I worked like crazy
Yeah,
this week.
yeah, I know you've been working a lot of
And-
hours.
There has been like I get home and I go pretty much go sleep. So yeah, I didn't read anything.
Right on. Well, that's understandable. What about you, Brian?
I've read a shitload. I had a huge pile. I still have a ton of graphic novels from the holiday season to read, but I read a poop load. I read new Star Wars, which I thought, like Chris, I thought was awesome. I read the first 6 issues of the new Suicide Squad, which I think is pretty cool. It added Deathstroke, the Joker's daughter, Reverse Flash, Black Manta, and even a couple of Man-Bats from Batman to the fold. And I think it's a pretty good book to read. I read Volume 3 of American Vampire, which is still awesome. It takes place in like this one takes place during World War II and has to do with vampire Nazis and all this stuff and like the first vampires before there was ever man on Earth. And then I read a new book, Volume 1 of Five Ghosts by Image. It's basically about like this dude who's like a treasure hunter, like kind of like an Indiana Jones type, who has these shards from this magical crystal embedded in his chest, and because of that, he gains the skills or powers of 5 ghosts. And each ghost has a different skill set that they let him use. One's a vampire, one's like a warlock, one's a samurai, one's an archer, and one's a detective. And these ghosts are supposed to be like almost like literature figures, because this stone in his chest is from this thing called the Dream Stone. It's hard to explain, but it was a really good read, and as of next sale that my comic book store puts on, I'm definitely picking up Volume 2. But it's like an adventure book, but this guy is able to use the skill set of all those types, those 5 types. Which is cool because he carries a bow on him, he carries a sword on him. When he uses a vampire, he turns into a vampire and then it goes away. It's a really interesting book and it's pretty cool. I suggest if people are looking for different things to read, new things, to pick that up.
Who writes that? Is that Scott Snyder?
No, that's Frank J. Barbier
Let's see the cover.
and Chris Mooneyham. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Oh, that one. Yeah.
I've caught up with Batman and Turtle, and that's still going awesome.
Yeah, I'm impressed with that series.
Is that coming to a close like when March? Or
Let's
I
see.
don't know.
Well,
I don't know if it's coming
was
to a
supposed to
close
be-
or they're not doing the monthly.
It
Or
was
they're not
supposed to
doing the
be a
weekly.
Yeah, it originally was a weekly thing. They're up to issue 41, I think, was this week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, so technically it would be another 11 weeks until they're done with the first year. But then I heard that they were actually going to consider continuing with it in some fashion, whether that's weekly again or monthly or
Probably
or
because
what.
it's been
But
one of the better.
Yeah.
It's been one of the better titles that DC's put out lately.
it's definitely been more talked about. I
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
All the off their platform that they currently got to run on. Everybody talks about Eternal.
Yeah, but Batman Eternal has been surprisingly good considering it's a weekly. But back to you, Brian.
I've caught up with Future's End, which is awesome, which is leading up to Convergence in a couple months, actually. And the whole thing dealing with Brainiac coming, the real Brainiac coming to Earth, and all this shit that's happening. If anybody's picked up that comic book, free comic book day issue with Batman Beyond, yeah, it's coming. It's gaining speed to that. What else did I read? I know there's something Marvel I read. Can't think.
Spider-Man something?
Spider-Man. Oh yeah, Spider-Man's pretty. I like the whole Spider-Verse thing. I mean, it's one of the better stories of Spider-Man since Peter Parker has come back, where all the Spider-Mans of different dimensions come together, and there's probably some interesting ones. Shit, I thought there was another Marvel. Guess that's it. I had a lot of shit to read this weekend.
Yeah,
I have a lot more shit to read.
it's easy for it to pile up. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I have a
I'm gonna
ton of graphic novels still
I'm
to
gonna make
read.
my day tomorrow consist of nothing but comic book reading.
There you go.
If I'm not working, maybe not. I don't know.
Maybe I'm not working. Maybe not. At all. I
Maybe.
don't know. I will probably work.
Do I be a responsible adult or a responsible nerd?
I feel like I'm slipping pretty hard in the nerd realm. It seems like every episode for the past like 10 or 15, it's like, what have you been reading, Pirate? Man, I ain't read shit.
And that's where the responsible
It's like,
adult comes in.
I'm almost going to be kicked off this podcast soon if I don't read something. I feel like
It's like Survivor.
For that and so many other reasons.
Oh,
All right.
personal reasons aside.
We need to have a tabletop game of the week. I'm going to throw this over into Topher's realm because he knows more tabletop games than anybody here, at least probably. So pick a tabletop game, and that's our tabletop game of the week. That's how much preparation we put into this, folks.
My tabletop
Literally
game of the week is
seconds.
Russian roulette.
Literally seconds of prepreparation go into this segment.
I seen this game in a movie called The Deer Hunter. It looked pretty fun.
I don't think that's a tabletop game, though. I'm not.
Yeah, you got to sit at the table to play it.
Damn, Topher's really taking this assignment seriously. He like fucking disappeared and like motherfucker's gonna like drive to the fucking game store and go buy a new game or something real quick.
Before he put out the tabletop game of the week, this is related to tabletop gaming. Did any of you guys watch Parks and Recreation?
No.
Damn it. But anyways, for the fans out there and the listeners,
that was a total fail of a fucking.
I seen that.
I have no idea what Chris is saying because he sounds like he's in a tin can.
There's a guy in there who's an accounting guy. He comes up with this game called the Cones of Dunshire, which is based off of a real game. I can't remember what it was, but it was funny that the real game, it's one of those extensive, long-played tabletop games that are super nerdy. Like, the ones that are like
Twilight Imperium.
That can last a whole weekend of gameplay.
Yeah.
The Green Bay Packers.
Settlers of Catan. That's what that's based on.
Yeah.
Settlers of Catan.
Yeah. They are playing this game, and they're obsessed with it.
Religiously.
Which I thought was hilarious. But anyways, also on the Cones of Dunshire, I guess a Kickstarter group is starting to get that game to be out to play.
Actually created. That's funny. That's awesome. Yeah, I'll have to, at some point, not this week, but at some point we'll have to do an episode on Twilight Imperium. I will have to refresh myself, but I know that
I hate those movies.
A fast game of this takes about 16 hours to play.
Jeez.
So
I'd gotten up to look around because there was a new game that I just played the other day, and I swear to God it should be sitting like in arm's reach.
That's all right. You can tell us about it.
I don't know where the fuck it is. But yeah, Cones of Dunshire, definitely they were kind of borrowing some elements from Settlers of Catan. It was supposed to be a joke, but then it got some backing. And then I went to Gen Con this past summer, and they actually had an event where the people from the Kickstarter set up like a large style board that they set outside under like a pavilion tent, and they had a bunch of people out there, and they had an event, and they were having people do all kinds of stuff for it, and actually playing like a live demo version of the game and trying to drum up support for it. Oh yeah, and they made people wear cones on their head while they were playing, and they had a lot of fun with it. It was actually it was really amusing to watch. It was pretty entertaining.
I think some article I said that it was going to be probably the most expensive board game you can purchase right now.
Probably.
That seems false.
I don't know, but they said it was like the Kickstarter was like super. Go ahead. I'm gonna look it up, see if I can find it.
Okay, so this week I played a game that a friend of mine got me for some holiday in the last year. I haven't gotten a chance to play it in a long time, but it's called Pandemic.
I've
my
played
friend
this game.
got that, and we haven't played it yet.
It's pretty neat. The premise is basically the board is a map of the world, and the idea is that all the players take on some sort of role of a task force trying to curb the spread of these diseases. And so, I don't know if you've ever they've had games it started as a Java applet game online years ago. I can't remember what it's called, Infection or something, where you can design a virus and make it airborne and try and get it to spread and take over the entire world and whatnot. This is kind of like that, only from the opposite perspective. The virus is spreading, there are these diseases, and you and your team have to go around and try and stop the spread of it. And it's
incredibly difficult is what it is.
It's hard. We only played it once, and we played the beginner instructional version, and we actually beat it the first time we played. But yeah, I can see where it would be really hard if you played with a lot of you can increase the difficulty by how many of the epidemic cards you put in the deck and whatnot. And it was a lot of fun, and I think my favorite part about this game was so many games you play against someone. It's like a head-to-head thing. There are a lot of games it's hard to find. You can't play unless you've got a ton of people. It's very hard to find a two-player game. And if you do find a two-player game, then you're playing head-to-head, and somebody's always going to lose. And it can be difficult to want to play games like that sometime. The neat thing about this game is you can play it with as few as two people. You can play it with more than that, but you can play it with only two people, and everybody's on a team together. You're actually all playing towards the same goal, and so it ends up being like a co-op game, which you don't find a lot in board games. And so it can be actually kind of fun to to play together with someone towards a common goal, and and beat the computer, as it were. Beat the board in the game by working together, and then.
And it's
And
relatively
everybody
short.
wins or everybody loses.
It's
Yeah, it
relatively
doesn't
short.
really
Too.
take
It
long.
takes like about an hour, I think.
Yeah, we played in about 45 minutes, and that was we were learning the rules, but we were playing the beginner version, like the lower difficulty one. And there's definitely some strategy elements to it. Like every turn, it's like, okay, do you think I should do this? It's not just like roll a die, move a number of spaces, and then move on. Like every single turn, you have to think, shit, okay, what's the best strategy here? And so there's a lot of strategy to it. It's very cooperative. You're asking your teammates for okay, I think I should do this, and then this will line up well for your turn. So you're planning several steps ahead and trying to and in each player. Each player takes on a different role. There's like a medic, a dispatcher, I don't remember what some of the other ones were, but each player has a special ability that they can use throughout the game. And so it's not like necessarily the exact same every time, because depending on what combination of roles you use, the game can work completely differently. And you can play as a different. You can get a different aspect on the game by playing as a different character. So I had a lot of fun with it. I'm definitely gonna play it again.
It's just to tag on to what he said. I had a great time playing it too. It's the fact that it's cooperative makes it like if you're having a game day with your friends and you play some of these longer, bigger board games that are always player versus player. It's a good one to play kind of between two of those games. To break up the monotony, because it is very different. I pull it up on Amazon here. The box just says in red letters, Pandemic, a new challenge. It's got like a picture of a doctor, a soldier, a construction worker, and an office worker standing kind of on the front cover. It says, "Can you save humanity?" It's made by Z-Man Games. You can get it on Amazon for $31.99. I'm pretty certain that this particular game they also have at local retailers like Target and Walmart, Kmart, places like that actually carry this game in stock on shelf. So it's definitely, like Topher was saying, it's an awesome game. It's not that expensive compared to other tabletop games. So there you have it. Pandemic is this week's tabletop game of the week for Comic Book Nerd Nation. So
Oftentimes the local comic book store will have
going
it
back
too.
to Cones of Dunshire, I just looked at the Kickstarter.
Yeah.
And the minimum pledge to get the game right now, that's going to be available, it says estimated in July, is $500.
That's a Kickstarter campaign, though. That's not like
Right,
the
no,
actual
I know.
price of the retail price.
Right, and it's obviously a deluxe Kickstarter edition. But yeah, that's where it's at right now.
All right. We'll check that out on Kickstarter if you're into Parks and Rec
Spending
Codes
hundreds of money.
and spending
sorry.
hundreds of dollars. Yes.
You were going a different direction with that.
Either way.
If you spend $3,500, you get the actual Gen Con carpet game board that they play, apparently, they're going to be playing this year. and some other stuff, like some seats at the. They had a bunch of stuff relating to the Gen Con event, like certain seats front row, like dinner with the crew or whatever. And
and it's being made by Mayfair Games, who is the company who does
Settlers of Catan.
Settlers of Catan. So it's not like they rip off. They're kind of
right. Okay, let's jump over to the news section. Let's talk.
Yeah, that first picture on their Kickstarter page is actually the event from Gen Con. You might even be able to see me in the background of that picture.
Nope, you're not there.
No. All right, moving on to the news.
Boobs.
So all the TV shows are coming back this week. Gotham,
Yay.
everything. Brian,
Fuck Gotham.
Talk about it for a minute because you were excited about this.
Yeah, so all the shows are finally coming back, except for The Walking Dead, which we have to wait back to February for. But
that's ridiculous.
Yeah, I know, those fucking Walking Dead people. But we get we get really good episodes for the first episodes back. For Flash, we get I'm pretty sure we get Captain Cold and what is it? Fuck. Is it Heat Wave? I get all the fire guys confused. Heat Wave in the first episode back, so that will be... The Captain Cold episode was good. Can't wait to see with more rogues coming into the picture. And then for Arrow, we get Ollie's dead. We get everybody trying to hold down Starling City. And I'm pretty sure we get Laurel as Black Canary in this first episode. And I think I read a synopsis where we say Ray Palmer will be testing part of his Atom suit.
Oh.
So that should be pretty entertaining. I mean, each week those shows are
great,
phenomenal.
Yeah. Which one are you looking forward to the most, Topher?
The X-Men.
Which one are you looking forward to the most coming back? Or are you behind on
the
them?
TV shows? Yeah, I'm not caught up on those. So
I see. I see.
Like Flash and Green Arrow, were those just the two you were talking about? Because I'm not current on either one of them. So
I'm not either.
I am still catching up on Green Arrow though. Like I'm working on it, but I've been watching Green Arrow.
Yeah.
I'm still only like halfway through the first season, and everybody keeps telling me, "Oh yeah, you're in the slow part. It gets better, and then next season's awesome, and season after that's even more awesome." And I don't know why everybody keeps trying to make excuses for the first half.
First season's not that bad.
I think it's been a great show. Like I'm like about halfway through the first season, and I'm fucking loving it.
It's just when you look back in retrospect, though, once you get to the second season and you look back at the first season, you're like, wow, that's basically a giant Bowflex commercial.
Yeah, and everybody keeps saying it gets better, but like I'll be honest, like it's like they keep, but it almost sounds to me like they're apologizing. Yeah, I know you're in the slow part. Like sorry, like just stick with it. And it's like, wait, what? Like this is already like one of my favorite shows, and this is supposedly the bad part. Like awesome. So I've also been watching the new Agent Carter, which has been pretty decent too.
I haven't watched that. That's good.
That's been on while Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is on hiatus. It's been pretty good. Shoot, I cannot remember her name. The woman who plays Peggy Carter, Haley Atwell. She's doing a great job on this show too, just like she did in Captain America. It kind of picks off where the original Captain America left off. And it's basically her working for the SSR in the early days, where she comes back, after the war, and there's the SSR office, and it's run by a bunch of guys, and she's like the only female in the office, and they keep there's like a lot of like sexual or not sexual, but gender discrimination, basically.
There's a lot of sexual
sex.
Yeah.
Gender discrimination, and so she's like the only female in this office, and like they keep like trying to relegate her to desk work and answering the phones, and and so she feels underutilized, and then she gets a message from Howard Stark, who basically Howard Stark's vault gets robbed and a bunch of his weapons get leaked onto the black market, and he kind of goes on the lam to try and get them back. But meanwhile, the U.S. thinks he's a terrorist and supplying, arms to all these black market traders. So he's basically a wanted criminal, and he gets in touch with Agent Carter and asks her to clear his name. And so she's kind of, having to go around and do all this stuff on the down low, so that her office doesn't know about it, while so sort of sabotaging their investigation so that she can stay one step ahead of them. Meanwhile, they're getting pissed off and like they're taking it out on her, in the office because, she's just the dumb office broad and so like it's been pretty decent. I've liked it so far.
I thought the first episode was kind of weird because coming from, where she was as far as the rank structure in Captain America and like all the power that she kind of supposedly had with that movie, and then to come to this and be basically treated as a glorified, or not even glorified, just treated as a secretary, like their coffee fetcher and stuff. I thought it was kind of weird. Like at first it didn't really fit to me. You know what I mean? It just felt like they needed a starting point somewhere. I
don't know if they explained it directly, but I was under the impression that her role in Captain America was a military one, and now that the war is over, this is a civilian office, and any rank and privilege she had as part of a special project in the Army did not carry over to a civilian organization, even though it is government. It's not part of the military. The SSR is a civilian office, and so her rank didn't transfer over. And while she's still considered an agent, in that office, they were kind of making fun of her because everybody knew that she was involved with Steve Rogers, and so everybody's pretty much dismissing her abilities and saying that she wasn't good at her job, she didn't earn it, she was just got to where she was because she was banging Cap.
Yeah, it just it just feels, I don't know, like for me it just kind of felt kind of weird and but even though the fact that she was like an outside, she was like an allied officer with that project, and then to get pulled in, she's English working like as a liaison for the English government or the allies with the American government, and then all of a sudden trickles down and becomes a secretary in New York or wherever they're at. Like I mean, I don't know.
She's not a secretary. She really is a full agent. She's a member of the team. Right. It's just her coworkers treat her like one. So
right. I mean that's what I'm saying. I'm like it just has a weird feeling starting out. Like obviously she does shit in it that is pretty pretty badass, but it just I don't know. It's just I guess maybe that's the point. And,
Well, now you know how it feels to be a working woman in the 1950s America.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Working girl.
In other news, moving forward, let's talk about I guess it's technically still a rumor. All of us have been excited about it. The fact that they're saying that Spider-Man is possibly, probably, maybe, could be, definitely. We don't know.
It depends on who you ask.
Right, in the third Avengers movie, which would be pretty awesome.
Yeah, Jesus Christ, can't they just finally do it already? Just announce it, or just give it to them, or just fucking do it. It's never gonna stop. Nobody's gonna like these Spider-Man movies. Just
there was
do it. Just give it to us.
There was a rumor a while back, like in the fall, there were talks about how Sony and Marvel could be in discussions
we talked about that.
Bring Spider-Man back in. We talked about it, and then when Sony had that big hacker leak, conversations were released where it was clear that deal fell through, and but they kind of like had a layout of what it would have looked like if the deal that was on the table. The rumor now is that Sony president or vice president or somebody high up at Sony was kind of irritated that the people at Sony responsible for trying to make that deal excuse me, couldn't push it through, and that they had been working on trying to make some sort of concession. So the big question for me is, like, how does that translate to Sony's movies? Is it going to be the same Spider-Man in Avengers that's in the Sony movies? Is Marvel getting some creative control over that, and Sony is just getting the distribution rights? Or, is it going to be we're sharing this character and your universe character is yours and the one we use in ours is ours and they're separate? Or, what exactly is is the distinction there?
I don't think that they'll do that where it's, the Spider-Man that's in Avengers movies for Marvel is a completely different Spider-Man than the one that, I don't think they'll keep them completely separate, because I think to the layman, I think that would be too confusing, especially since Marvel has standalone movies, like the Thor movies, like the Hulk movie, like the Captain America movies, that all tie into the bigger picture of the Avengers movies. So if somebody watches this Avengers 3 movie, they see Spider-Man, they like Spider-Man, they say, I'm going to go watch a Spider-Man movie because I like that character, and they go and watch a Sony Spider-Man movie and see a completely different Spider-Man, I think that's going to be taken off the table right away by Marvel.
Well, the fact that there's already 5 previous Spider-Man movies out there with
garbage.
With 2 different Spider-Mans, I think might be kind of irrelevant.
I mean, they're doing that right now with X-Men, with Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. They're shared rights and they're using different characters. Now, granted, those characters aren't of the same recognition level as Spider-Man. They're not as iconic. They're not even in the same tier by any means. But again, Sony has the rights, so it's like, a deal had to have been struck. The deal has to be mutually beneficial somehow, or they wouldn't have done it. So, the question is, what carries over? Are the Sony movies about Spider-Man in the future going to be part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe?
I think so. I think they will be, if they go forward with this.
My hope is that the deal is something like, Marvel has creative control over it,
and Sony just gets to distribute it.
Maybe even oversight on the script, and then Sony gets the distribution rights, and there's some sort of sharing of the revenue or something. So.
Which in terms would be better for Sony, because they put out garbage so far, and they keep on putting out garbage, and now with these new sets of movies, they're supposed to do this movie and that movie, and they took it back, and they don't know what they're doing with Spider-Man 3, or if it's going to be Andrew Garfield anymore. They should just fucking give Marvel creative control over it, let them put them in whatever movie they want to put them in, and people will probably like it better, because they have done shit so far.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been a couple of decent movies they put out with Spider-Man, but it's still not. People are just like, this is dumb. Why am I watching this?
I think my biggest hope from this news story is something that's probably not going to happen, at least not for a while, but is that it's going to work out so well for Sony that Fox sees it and says, hey, we need to let them have creative control over the X-Men.
Yeah, I don't see that happening anytime soon. Okay, one other thing that I want to talk about for sure before we're done today is last week, I believe it was last week, maybe the week before, we talked about how there have been rumors about the fact that Batman v Superman was going to be split into 2 movies. And for the most part, all of us kind of agreed that would be a good thing, to cover more material, to make it more in-depth, a number of reasons. Well, this week, Henry Cavill, who plays Superman, is publicly denying that Batman v Superman will be split into 2 movies. So it looks like that is not the case whatsoever. And we're back to the original one movie. So I'm a little bummed out. As an advocate for this movie, I am a little bit discouraged, I guess, that they're not going to break it into 2 movies. I kind of would have liked to see that so that they had the time to more thoroughly cover everything that could potentially be in this movie. But at the same time, I'm still optimistic that I think that the finished product of what they're going to put out is still going to be good. What do you think, Pirate?
I don't know. Like I was for more of the one movie, but you're right. It is going to be like, I mean, Brian's been saying that they're putting a lot into one movie, and depending on how they do it, like I don't know, man. This is definitely one of those movies that I just have to see, and maybe see it twice, because if they just like hint things, like they just a tease of Aquaman here, and Aquaman's not really in it, or
that could work.
Victor Stone, if they just tease him in there and he's not really in it, cool. I see one movie being completely fine, but if they just fucking waterboard this film with fucking, every character that they have at their disposal, it's going to be a lot, dude. And it's just going to be overwhelming. Like, like I said, I'm for the movie. Whether it's good or bad, I'm going to see it, and I'm probably going to like it, but I'm very skeptical about everything they're doing into one film. As of right now, I'm just excited to see it.
Yeah,
I just want
me too.
To see it. Regardless whether it's going to be good or bad, I want them to get my money, and I want to have an opinion after the film.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah. I'm anxiously awaiting the post movie episode where we get to discuss that movie, because it has been so just extensively discussed, both on the internet and on this podcast as well, and hotly debated and called poop from some people, and some of us think it's going to be a good movie, but
I'm pretty much sure our entire Facebook feed consists of Brian downing this movie. So I mean,
yes,
you want to see Brian's real feelings on this film?
I'm kind of looking forward to that.
Our Facebook page.
God. Did you write that backwards, or does it just show up backwards?
No, I wrote it backwards.
Okay. All right.
You only see your own camera backwards, right? And the rest of us see it the right way.
Wait,
So.
you mean it's not coming out the right way?
No, not at all. So, I would like to quickly take this opportunity to just state the fact that is the mentality of the person that says this movie's not going to be good.
So if it's
I will take a point on that argument.
If it's a backwards poop, does that mean you're shoving something in your ass?
Yeah, because the poop doesn't want to see the movie, so it's going back in your butt.
Good effort. Good effort.
I don't want to be in this world.
Back and forth poop.
Right. So, all right. Well, that's about it for this week's episode. There's the poop spelled correctly. All right, that's about it for this week's episode. We will be back next Wednesday and every Wednesday after that till the end of time. I'm Fox2. We got Pirate.
See you guys until the end of time.
Topher.
Or at least the end of the episode.
The whole effing Brian.
Where does it all end? Out of my butt.